There's a moment in every culture cycle when a personal story suddenly becomes a mirror for something much bigger. Not because the people involved asked for that role, but because their lives sit at the crossroads of fame, power, money, technology, and modern values. This is one of those moments. When Candace Owens weighed in on the public tensions surrounding Elon Musk and the women he shares children with, the conversation immediately shifted from celebrity gossip into something deeper, more uncomfortable, and far more revealing about the world we live in. At first glance, it looks like just another internet debate, a high-profile entrepreneur, multiple co-parents, public disagreements that spill into headlines and social media. But Candace Owens did not frame it as a tabloid spectacle. She framed it as a cultural question. Why does this keep happening? Why do these situations feel so volatile? And what does it say about modern relationships when even the most powerful people on the planet cannot seem to navigate family life without conflict becoming public? That framing is why her reaction struck a nerve. It was not just commentary on Elon Musk, it was commentary on the systems, incentives, and social narratives that surround fame, family, and influence. And once you start pulling on that thread, it becomes impossible to ignore how layered this conversation really is. To understand why Candace Owens' reaction resonated, it helps to understand her role in the media landscape. She is known for cultural critique, not celebrity worship. When she comments on public figures, she tends to zoom out and ask broader questions about values, accountability, and consequences. Her interest is rarely the personal drama itself, but what that drama reveals about society at large. In this case, the recurring public friction between Elon Musk and the women he shares children with became a case study, not in who is right or wrong, but in how modern fame changes the dynamics of private life. According to publicly available information, Elon Musk has children with more than one partner. Each relationship exists within its own context, with its own history, expectations, and challenges. Some of those dynamics have spilled into public view through interviews, social media posts, and reporting. Candace Owens' reaction did not rely on rumors or speculation. Instead, she focused on patterns that are visible to anyone paying attention. Public disagreements, conflicting narratives, moments where private family matters become part of a global conversation. She asked why these situations seem to escalate rather than resolve quietly. One angle she explored was power imbalance. When one person in a relationship holds immense wealth, cultural influence, and media attention, the stakes change. Even well-intentioned decisions can have outsized consequences. A disagreement that might remain private in an ordinary household can quickly become headline news when one party is among the most recognizable figures in the world. Another angle was modern relationship culture itself. Candace Owens questioned whether society has normalized arrangements that are emotionally unstable by design. When commitment structures are unclear or fragmented, conflict becomes more likely, not less. In her view, the surprise is not that tensions arise, but that anyone expects them not to. She also raised questions about incentives. In the age of social media, public statements carry power. They can shape narratives, attract sympathy, or apply pressure. When family disputes play out online, the audience becomes part of the equation. That attention can escalate conflict rather than soothe it, even when the original intention is to clarify or defend. Importantly, Candace Owens avoided turning any individual into a villain. Her commentary leaned towards systems rather than personalities. She emphasized that multiple people can feel hurt, misunderstood, or sidelined at the same time. Public sympathy often shifts quickly, but real emotions do not resolve on a news cycle. As the conversation spread, viewers were drawn in not because they wanted drama, but because the situation felt familiar in a strange way. Strip away the wealth and the headlines, and the core issues remain deeply human. Co-parenting is complicated, relationships end, expectations clash, communication breaks down. The difference here is scale. When these challenges happen under a global microscope, every misstep feels amplified. Candace Owens also touched on the role of ideology. Elon Musk is often portrayed as a symbol of innovation and futurism. His personal life, intentional or not, becomes part of that brand. Some people see his family arrangements as progressive, others see them as chaotic.
Candace Owens challenged the assumption that unconventional automatically means healthier or more enlightened.
She asked whether society sometimes confuses novelty with wisdom. Just because a relationship structure is new or unconventional does not mean it avoids the timeless realities of jealousy, insecurity, and emotional needs. Technology can change how we communicate, but it does not erase human nature. This perspective resonated with viewers who were weary of cultural narratives that promise freedom without cost. Candace Owens suggested that when boundaries are unclear, conflict fills the gap. When roles are undefined, resentment grows. And when children are involved, the stakes rise even higher. Midway through her commentary, she shifted tone slightly. Instead of continuing to ask why these conflicts exist, she redirected the focus toward a more uncomfortable question. Why is the public so deeply invested in witnessing them? Why do we feel a sense of entitlement to observe private family dynamics as if they were public property? In an age where personal lives are constantly broadcast, the boundary between what is private and what is performative has become increasingly blurred. Moments that were once confined to living rooms and close circles are now streamed, clipped, and analyzed by millions of strangers. She challenged viewers to consider how social media platforms have reshaped emotional expression. Algorithms do not simply reflect human behavior, they actively shape it. Content that is emotionally charged, anger, grief, betrayal, or confrontation, tends to generate higher engagement. As a result, platforms indirectly reward oversharing during moments of emotional stress. What might once have been a private cry for support can quickly turn into viral content, stripped of context and reduced to spectacle. The conversation also highlighted how gender dynamics complicate public perception. Women who speak publicly about personal grievances are frequently scrutinized for their motives, emotional tone, or perceived credibility. At the same time, men with immense wealth and power are often insulated by their success and influence. Candace Owens navigated this terrain carefully, emphasizing the importance of fairness over favoritism. She argued that true accountability should not depend on gender, popularity, or status. She reminded viewers that criticism of a situation does not automatically equal condemnation of a person. It is possible to question a pattern of behavior without attacking the character of the individuals involved. This distinction, however, is often lost in online discourse, where nuance struggles to survive and complex realities are flattened into simple narratives. Toward the later part of her reaction, Candace Owens widened the lens even further. She connected these high-profile family disputes to broader societal trends, including declining trust, fragmented communities, and the gradual erosion of shared norms around commitment and responsibility. In doing so, she framed the issue not as isolated drama, but as a reflection of deeper shifts shaping modern social life. Her argument was not rooted in nostalgia for the past, but in caution about the unintended consequences of rapid cultural change. Candace Owens emphasized that progress without reflection can sometimes create new problems faster than it resolves old ones. When society celebrates disruption in every domain, technology, work, politics, and even personal identity, family life can begin to feel like just another space for experimentation. Traditions and long-standing norms, once seen as stabilizing forces, are increasingly treated as optional or outdated, without fully considering what might be lost when they are set aside. This is where the conversation took on a more reflective tone. Candace Owens asked what lessons younger generations are absorbing from the behavior of influential figures. Public role models, whether intentionally or not, shape cultural expectations. When instability, public conflict, or constantly shifting personal arrangements are presented as normal or even admirable, it raises questions about how young people interpret those signals. Do they begin to see uncertainty as the default? Do they come to expect that relationships and commitments are temporary, flexible, and easily redefined? At the same time, she acknowledged another possibility, that these highly visible situations may not be creating new realities, but simply revealing patterns that have always existed beneath the surface. What has changed, in this view, is not necessarily human behavior itself, but the scale and speed at which it is displayed, analyzed, and judged in real time.
Private struggles that once remained hidden are now amplified, documented, and debated in real time. There are no easy answers, and Candace Owens did not pretend otherwise. Her reaction was less about delivering firm conclusions and more about prompting deeper reflection. She invited viewers to think critically about the stories they consume, the figures they elevate, and the values those stories quietly promote. In doing so, she encouraged a more intentional approach to both media consumption and cultural change, one that values thoughtfulness over reflexive celebration of every new trend. As the discussion wound down, Candace Owens returned to what she described as the human cost behind the headlines. She reminded viewers that beyond the trending topics, viral clips, and heated commentary are real people navigating deeply complex emotions. These are not abstract characters in a story, but individuals dealing with consequences that extend far beyond a single news cycle. Most importantly, she highlighted the presence of children, young people who did not choose public visibility, yet must grow up with their family dynamics discussed, interpreted, and archived online for strangers to consume. She also acknowledged the adults involved, noting that even powerful or famous individuals are still human. They make decisions, learn lessons, and sometimes make painful mistakes in full view of the public. The difference is that their learning process is not private. It unfolds under constant scrutiny, where missteps are not easily forgotten, and personal growth is often overshadowed by permanent digital records. This public environment can make genuine reflection and change more difficult, not easier. Candace Owens urged viewers to practice empathy without falling into naivety. Compassion, she argued, should not require ignoring patterns of behavior that may be harmful or irresponsible. At the same time, accountability should not turn into cruelty. Online spaces often collapse these distinctions, swinging between blind defense and relentless attack. She emphasized the importance of holding space for complexity, recognizing harm where it exists, while still acknowledging the humanity of everyone involved. In her final remarks, she made it clear that her reaction was not meant to serve as a verdict on Elon Musk or his co-parents. Instead, she framed it as a broader question aimed at society itself. What kind of culture are we building? One that supports families as they navigate complexity, privacy, and growth? Or one that quietly profits through clicks, views, and engagement from their dysfunction and pain? The question, she suggested, is not just about celebrities. It is about the values reflected in what we choose to watch, share, and reward. That question lingers long after the clips stop playing. It invites discomfort. It asks us to slow down and reconsider what we reward with attention. And maybe that is why this conversation continues to resonate, not because it offers drama, but because it exposes attention at the heart of modern life. We have more freedom, more visibility, and more influence than ever before, but we are still learning how to wield those tools without hurting the people closest to us. As viewers, we can choose how we engage. We can demand depth over outrage. We can resist the urge to pick sides without understanding the full picture. We can remember that public figures are also private people, even when their lives intersect with our screens. If this discussion made you think, that's worth something. If it challenged your assumptions, even better. Conversations like this matter when they move us beyond surface reactions and into deeper reflection. If you found this breakdown valuable, take a moment to show your support. Liking the video helps it reach others who care about thoughtful conversations. Subscribing keeps you connected to more deep dives like this. And sharing your perspective in the comments adds another layer to the discussion. Your voice is part of this story too.
This shift became a secondary hook in the conversation. Viewers were no longer just watching a conflict unfold. They were being asked to confront their own role within it. Every click, every share, and every heated comment contributes to a larger feedback loop. The audience is not a neutral observer. Attention is fuel, and the more attention something receives, the more it is amplified, regardless of whether that amplification causes harm. In this sense, she reframed the issue from being solely about the individuals involved to being about a broader cultural pattern. The real question was no longer just why people overshare, but why so many of us are eager to watch, judge, and participate.
By shifting responsibility outward to include the audience, she invited a deeper, more self-critical reflection on how modern digital culture turns real human pain into a form of entertainment. Candace Owens pointed out that public sympathy often comes with strings attached. When someone shares their side of a conflict online, they may gain immediate support and validation, but that support is rarely neutral. Instead, it often locks them into a fixed narrative. Once a story is framed publicly, expectations are created. Supporters begin to identify heroes and villains, and the person who shared first may feel pressured to continue performing that role. Walking back earlier statements, admitting complexity, or acknowledging the other side becomes far more difficult when thousands of strangers are emotionally invested in a particular version of events. She explained that this dynamic can make compromise harder rather than easier. Private disagreements allow room for nuance, apologies, and quiet resolution. Public conflicts, by contrast, tend to harden positions. When an audience is cheering for a specific outcome, backing down can feel like betrayal, not just of oneself, but of the crowd that has offered support. The conflict becomes less about solving a problem and more about maintaining a public image. She also emphasized the importance of restraint. Not every truth needs an audience, and not every frustration needs to be aired publicly.